Now that's a fun song. That's called Feeding the Ducks for some reason. I don't know why, but that's a fun song. And I just came back from the park where I did not feed, but I did look at the ducks. Well, welcome to a new episode of Rudd's Room. A super high energy, exciting episode of Rudd's Room because it's not boring at all. I got to give special shout out to my number one fan, Mr. Kristopher Bilbrey, who always tells me how much he enjoys this video. So I hope he enjoys this one. So this is the second video in the Rudd's Room Rant series. I know I said I was going to do more of these several months ago. On tax day, I finally got back to it. So if you can't tell, the title of this episode is Liars. And I'm going to go off a little bit on why it drives me crazy, why lying drives me crazy, and what it means to me to be honest. So that's the topic for this episode. Let's hurry up and get to it. Hopefully I've got everything in line because I don't have a producer Kate when I do these. Mr. Bilbrey said he would help produce if I'd like. However, he's traveling right now, so I don't want to bother him. So we're going to go ahead and make do. I think we'll be fine, though. So, like I said, episode is about a topic that drives me crazy. And it's the title of the episode. It's Liars. Liars pertain to all people in life, but since this is a political channel, I'm going to specifically focus on lying politicians, maybe kind of what that means for voters and how that all works out. And when it comes to lying politicians, there's plenty of fodder there. There's more than enough to choose from. And really being a liar isn't unique to any one party or any one political position. We've seen politicians caught in lies, whether it be a council member, a mayor, or even politicians at the national level. And there's different levels of lying too. You'll see a lot of politicians doing this crap where they really want to exaggerate their accomplishments. They want to take credits for other people's bills. They want to really kind of do whatever they can do to maintain power. And it's really kind of gross. And by kind of gross, I mean it's really gross. So we'll go ahead and get into it. There are a couple things that bother me. And one of the things that really bothers me is how people tend to overlook lying if it's on their side of the aisle. I've been critical of politicians before that are completely full of it. They're lying, they're doing dishonest and unethical things. And their supporters will still say things like, well, what do you want? Do you want a crazy liberal? You want a crazy right-winger in office? What do you want to do? They're doing their best. Like, stop being critical. We here at the Bastards of Politics believe that you need to hold politicians accountable. That means keeping them honest, keeping them on the straight and narrow. And if they're not willing to do these things, then they don't need to be in office. And I hate the excuse of, oh, do you want someone from the other party? No, I'd be fine with someone from your own party. Just get someone who is able to tell the truth and be a decent human being. That's what I would really like to see. And so I've got a couple examples I wanted to share. Let's see how this goes with me trying to produce while I'm doing this. I've got a favorite video I've seen quite a few times where Joe Biden has been caught in lies plenty of times. I mean, this is the president of the United States, and he's been lying his whole life and still got to where he is. I mean, he's the leader of the free world, the highest political position you can get in this country, and he kind of gets a pass on it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this quick clip, and we'll talk about this once we're done.
Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania and come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
So this is blatant plagiarism, first of all. He's basically trying to steal someone else's life story and it's absurd. It's blatant plagiarism, and I can't believe he's gotten away with it. Let me find this other part that I'm trying to go to, and then this part also really sticks
Joseph
with me.
Biden may have more explaining to do.
The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only needed 123 credits.
Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
And I'd be
Well, there you go. Apparently his memory's been failing him for a long time. It's not a new thing. So maybe he is just as cute as he's always been mentally. So maybe that's a fair argument.
delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank. Joe Biden was...
And I love how condescending it is. The whole point was some guy was asking him a question and he decided to get really condescending and rude with a constituent who had a question. You got to love that stuff. That's fun. So lying politicians is nothing new. We see that all the time. And it's gross. I mean, this was, gosh, when was that video? I already lost it. But you can tell by the video quality, that was from good old ancient times. Let me put that back in there and see if I can find a date on it. I believe it was the 1970s. Oh, 1988. It's 1987. This was 1987. He continued to remain in office, continued to move up through the ranks, and is now the president of the United States. Being a liar didn't hurt him. In fact, it probably helped him more than anything. But the real reason I decided to make this video is a more recent lie that I experienced from local politician, state representative John Dale Prescott, who thinks it's appropriate to lie directly to constituents on the record. And, you know, he thinks he's going to get a pass on it. So I'm going to bring out to light where JD Prescott is being a liar, and I'm going to share that with you all as soon as I can get the video open. Oh, it is open. Well, hot dang. Let me, oh geez. Let me get this ready as everyone patiently waits. Okay. And then share my screen. So, where is it? So, on, let me find it. I'm having more time. February 19th, 2022, JD Prescott held an infamous town hall in Winchester, Indiana, at the State Farm Building, or at the fairgrounds. Sorry, at the fairgrounds, where he infamously ran out after the first question, threw a tantrum, came back and did answer some questions. I got an opportunity to ask a question, though. When I raised my hand, he tried to pretend not to see me until I leaned into his view, and he finally allowed me to answer my question, or ask my question. And here's kind of how that went. I'm going to kind of tell you what I'm saying, because the audio, it's really hard to hear what I'm saying. And then I've got an image I can pop up that actually, if this works correctly, it should give you the subtitles, what JD's response is to my question. Because the audio is a little choppy. It's a large room, and we didn't really have him properly. We weren't properly mic'd up. So here's me in a signature Purdue hat, looking good. Can't really see her, but here is producer Kate. And there's a couple other boppers and friends of ours. I don't really want to call them out, but they were also here, so this is kind of fun. Oh, so this first part of the question, J.D. Prescott likes to pretend to be super transparent and says he'll talk with anyone, and that he's a super honest person. So this first part is actually me calling him out for being a liar. So he said in an article with the Star Press that he doesn't know why anyone would be upset because he's never had any complaints from any teachers or any questions or comments really or from teachers. Which I know to not be true because I personally know several teachers who emailed him. And so his statement to the Star Press was a complete lie. And he essentially is saying that the Star Press is lying, that he didn't lie, that their direct quote from him was a fabrication, that they lied and that the Star Press makes mistakes. So that wasn't my question. That was me kind of being angry and venting because he's a liar. Because he just called out another teacher and said, well, I hadn't seen any emails or something like that. So my question here is regarding House Bill 1001, 2022. So that is the bill that deals with the COVID emergency. It's the bill that essentially says that employers are allowed to force their employees. I'm trying to do three things at once. It allows employers to mandate COVID vaccinations to their employees, though it does allow for people to apply for religious exemptions or medical exemptions if they have a doctor's note saying that they can't take the vaccine for a medical reason. The problem I had with it and the question I was asking JD about is, well, looking at the bill, there's no enforcement mechanism in there. And what I mean by that is the bill says, hey, employers, your employees, you have to allow your employees to file a religious exemption form. There's nothing in there that says that they have to accept it. And if they just completely don't follow this, there's no enforcement mechanism in that there's no punishment. It'd be really simple to write in there that, oh, you will be fined X amount of dollars for every violation of this law, or whatever they want to put in there. They can put any enforcement mechanism they want, but there was no enforcement mechanism. So employers could just say, I don't care. And then the employee has no real option other than they could potentially file a lawsuit. Otherwise, there's not a lot they can do about it. So that's what I was kind of fired up about. And I had emailed JD previously, and he refused to answer my email. And I believe other people like producer Kate had emailed with similar concerns. And JD was not answering or really giving a good answer to that. So that's what I'm asking him about. I'm saying, what is the enforcement mechanism? Let's continue. Yeah, so I'm also explaining that there are a lot of employers out there who are requiring people to fill out these forms, these exemption forms, and some of them are really long, like 11 pages, 9 pages, whatever, around 10 pages. Yeah, sure, let's split the difference. Like 10 pages long, asking all kinds of invasive questions, really questioning people's religious beliefs and how strictly they actually do follow or hold those beliefs, which in my opinion, I think is a disgusting violation of someone's religious liberty. I don't see why it's an employer's place to evaluate and determine how much a person actually holds their religious beliefs. That has nothing to do with an employer. That's between a person and their spiritual leader, or between them and their God. So that's my opinion. I said several months ago I emailed you.
I've given you my cell phone number. I'd be happy for it.
He says, I've given you my cell phone number. I'd be happy to have a call anytime. Why do I need to call you? I already wrote you several emails. Just answer the email, dude. It's way easier. You can do it on your own time. I don't have to schedule an appointment for a phone call. Oh, that's right, because then you would be on the record, on paper, in writing, what your views are, and you don't like that, which is why he was less than pleased to see Kristopher Bilbrey show up with a camera at this event.
So I don't say I have to wait.
Don't wait me, punk.
Okay, I'm not even going to answer your question because you're questioning my integrity, but
okay, let's see. I've got the let's see if I can do both these at the same time.
But to the point on back, or I'll answer the 1001 part piece of it. As it left the house, it was through the Department of Workforce, there is an enforcement piece in there. It's not coming to my mind right now, but there was a slight enforcement piece in it when it left the house. It's not as strong as I'd like, to be honest. I'd like a stronger enforcement measure, and then the Senate took that out in the Senate committee, I believe. I'd have to go back and check to see if they've actually accepted that committee or not. But the Senate was probably going to take that piece of it out. But I would also like to see stronger enforcement language on 1001 myself. But I think there was a piece in there that had to do with I think I'm wrong on that.
So I think I'm wrong on that.
But I would like to see stronger enforcement on 2001.
Yeah, so I put unintelligible in there. I can't understand what he was saying, but basically he just kind of mumbled for a minute and said, I'd like to see strong enforcement. So if you notice what he said so far is a lot of mumbling and a lot of saying there is an enforcement measure, but I don't know what that enforcement measure is. I'd have to look up that enforcement measure. I want there to be a stronger enforcement measure. I'd like to see a stronger enforcement language. I'd like to see stronger enforcement. So he said several times he would like to see stronger enforcement language. Now let's see what this, I don't know who this woman is, but I really like what she has to say here.
It does allow for those exemptions and mandates the employer to allow for those. However, it excludes like the factory workers and sports organizations and entertainment venues. So we think we can stay medically or religiously exempt. That's end of story. That's a constitutional right.
So she's saying, yeah, there are the law does say that they need to offer a religious exemption. However, there are several places that are exempt from that. She said she mentioned a couple of those, like medical facilities is a big one in medical industry, different like entertainment venues, things like that. And her final point is, I don't understand why it allows for an employer to question someone's religious beliefs. People should be able to put in a religious exemption. That's it. Done. End of story. It's a constitutional right, is what she says. And then JD follows up again.
I would like it to be stronger, but it takes 51 votes in the House and 26 votes in the Senate. So it is as strong as it could be to get through the House and get a hearing and start moving the Senate. So it takes negotiations.
Yeah. So again, we get from get back to JD saying, yeah, I wish it was stronger. I wish it was stronger. I agree. I wish it was stronger. He's admitting that there are issues with the bill that is not protecting people's rights as much as it should be. He admits that 3 or 4 times in that statement. Other people are agreeing, saying, hey, this needs to be stronger. We need to come up with some kind of enforcement mechanism. It simply should be that if someone needs a religious exemption, an employer needs to offer that exemption, and if someone fills it out, the employer needs to accept it. That's what that woman was saying. It's a constitutional right. You have religious liberty, and it shouldn't be infringed upon. So why is that a big deal? He's saying, oh, well, I'd like it to be stronger, but what can I do? I'm only a representative. I need 51 votes. Fight for it. Go out there and speak to your constituents. Answer some emails. Write some emails. Stop blocking people on Facebook. And go out there and say, hey, contact your representatives. Contact your friends. Tell them to contact the representatives. Tell them that we need an enforcement measure in there. Otherwise, there's going to be issues and people's rights are going to be violated. Instead, we get hands thrown up. What am I going to do? We need 51 votes to get out of the House. That's the best I can do. We only have a Republican supermajority, so we can easily get 51 votes if we actually believe in the Republican values that we say we do. If we're an actual conservative and not a liar who keeps sending out flyers saying how conservative and how they only represent Christian conservative values, why don't you actually stand behind those values instead of sending these stupid flyers that are full of crap? Just be freaking honest. It's ridiculous. I can't stand liars. That's why I'm ranting right now. So let's skip forward a little over a year. So this was February 19th, 2022, before the bill actually passed. It passed. There weren't really any protections in it. There wasn't really an enforcement mechanism. Employers were allowed to continue to, medical workers in particular, weren't really protected. No one really was. People could be forced to have their religious liberties violated. And so a year later, what is this? Saturday, March 18th, 2023. There's another town hall. J.D. Prescott tries to keep it on the down low. He doesn't really want anyone to show up because usually when a lot of people show up, like that last one you see, it turns into a hot mess. He does not like being recorded. These town halls were previously, as we just saw, they were at the fairgrounds, which is an open public area where everyone's allowed to show up. You can record, you can do whatever you want. We went to a previous one. Joshua Civic Duty Kimbrell videotaped it, and he was told he is not allowed to videotape. It was a public forum. Actually, it wasn't town hall. It was a public forum for all candidates, and not everyone can make it to every event. So the bastards of politics, Josh Kimbrell and Kristopher Bilbrey in particular, tend to go to these events and record them if they're not being recorded so they can share them with the community so everyone can take part. Everyone can be as informed as they can possibly be. That's great. That's how we should want it. That's how politics should be. So Josh shows up to that event. He's told he can't record. Joshua says, bet, call the police. We're on public property, aren't we? Well, yeah. This is a public event, isn't it? Well, yeah. There's nothing they could do about it. Josh recorded the entire thing and posted it on YouTube. That video is on the Bastards of Politics channel. So check that out if you want to see it. That was last fall. So fast forward back to where I was talking about. We were Saturday, March 18th. Joshua Kimbrell and I showed up to a Indiana legislative update featuring Senator Scott Alexander, a new senator, and state representative J.D. Just Delete Prescott. We get in there. Joshua Civic Duty Kimbrell is well prepared with his camera. He's bringing it in, and he's told by one of the organizers, "Hey, what are you doing, bud? Yeah, you can't bring that in here." Josh says, "Why not? Isn't this a public event?" He says, "Yeah, but it's on private property. This is the state farm building now. This isn't the fairgrounds. Now it's private property, and you are not allowed to record." Joshua Civic Duty Kimbrell. This video is all on the Bastards of Politics channel, by the way. It's the video Indiana legislative update from State Senator Scott Alexander and State Representative J.D. Prescott. So Josh kind of gets in a little fight with him and an argument. He says, "You know what? I'm recording. Excuse me." Goes to the back room, starts recording. He kind of asked J.D. Prescott, "Hey, do you mind being recorded? I've never taken you out of context. I record it. I don't edit it. I play it in its entirety. It's just to share it with people. There are people who can't make it here. It was really cold, bad weather. To get out to that building, there's not really a way for people. If you're in a wheelchair, it'd be very difficult to get over there if you don't have a ride. It just wasn't very accessible, and the weather was really nasty that day. So Josh is making the point that, yeah, he's recording for those people. Asked JD if he minds being recorded. Josh and JD, instead of saying, "You know what, you guys need to let him record, this is a public event," he kind of throws his hands up and says, "Hey, this isn't my building. You're going to have to ask the organizers. It's their rules. So you can't record me. And I love that JD acts like he's innocent in this whole thing. Like State Farm deliberately moved it there because they had been hosting it at the fairgrounds for a long time until Josh started recording there and they couldn't stop him. So I think this was a deliberate move to try to stop recordings. They didn't stop Josh. He went ahead and continued to record. I stepped outside for a couple minutes like a wuss because I thought we were going to get the police calling us, and they did call the police. But I went back in, sat down. Josh continued to record, and what do you know? The police showed up, talked to the organizer and Josh, and said, "Is this a public event?" Yep. He can record. That's how it works. That's how the First Amendment works. If you're going to hold these public town halls, you have to treat them as public town halls. You can't do this JD move where you try to not be on tape. Well, we're about to see why he didn't want to be on tape when I share this clip right here. So, like I said, this is from our channel. This is Josh Civic Duty video, Indiana legislative update from State Senator Scott Alexander and State Representative JD Prescott. So let's go ahead and share this real quick. And this should be starting with my question.
Passed out 91 received bipartisan support, and 178 bills are coming over for us. Let's hear what your concerns are or what you like.
Question time. Who's first?
I have a question on.
Oh, that voice sounds familiar.
I have a question on last year's House Bill 1002.
Listen to that dummy. It's House Bill 1001, not 1002. But I think what I did there was I meant to say 2022 House Bill 1001. But I'm always frustrated when I talk to this character. So I think I combined them, the 1001 and the 2022, into a 1002. So I know it's 1001. I correct myself in a minute. JD kind of calls me out for saying 1002. It's a slip of the tongue. Apologies. I was wrong. I will admit it. But it was just a slip of the tongue.
The bill, JD, you're familiar with, I think you're a co-author. That bill allowed for discrimination against people based on religious beliefs. It allows employers to force employees to fill out forms, and then they get to assess whether someone actually holds the religious beliefs or not. To me, it seems pretty discriminatory. Forces people either take vaccines or lose their jobs. Are there any efforts to roll back any of that since the vaccines don't really even seem to be effective anymore anyway?
Well, the House Bill 1002, I would not.
So that question is pretty simple. It's basically a continuation of my last question, which is, hey, can you do something to actually protect us from discrimination? Last time he said, I would really like to. We just watched it. He said several times, yeah, I wish there was stronger enforcement mechanisms. I really wish there were stronger enforcement mechanisms. There's just nothing I can do. But he kept admitting there aren't strong enough enforcement mechanisms. He wishes they were stronger, but more. So let's let him continue to BS this.
1001. Yeah, 1001. I'm sorry, you said 1002. But yeah, it is 1001. You're correct with the.
Yeah, I was correct.
That bill actually provided protections for employees. And I've had numerous people reach out and say that it's helped them. So
it actually provided protections for employees. Yes, to some degree. I will admit that to some degree it does offer another avenue that would allow you to have protection for religious rights, but it doesn't have an enforcement mechanism, so it doesn't necessarily protect anybody. It gives it the opportunity for it, but it doesn't guarantee protection in any way. An employer could still do whatever they wanted, and many did.
There was half a dozen discrimination jobs. Nobody's helped them provide protections for employees, and I've had numerous people reach out and say that it's helped them. So
he said numerous people reach out and say that it helped them. I'm going to have to take him at his word, but I don't know who calls JD as a co-author of a bill that had like 50 co-authors and says, hey, thanks so much. That really helped me, that bill, to fill out that discriminatory paperwork and allow my employer to review and rate my religious beliefs. I'm sure that really happened. I'm going to have to assume it did because I don't know. I doubt it, but I'll take his word for it, even though I don't trust him.
There was half a dozen that lost their jobs because of it.
And I tell him I know several people have lost their jobs because of it. And it's true. Not that House Bill 1001 directly costs on their jobs. I'm trying to be clear here. People lost their jobs because there weren't protections in House Bill 1001. They lost their jobs because House Bill 1001 wasn't strong enough, because there wasn't an enforcement mechanism, and because they wouldn't simply write in there that employers needed to offer and accept a religious exemption, because at this point, they don't have to accept one. They still don't have to accept one. They can tell you to flip sand. Thanks for your religious exemption. I don't actually believe you were raised a Catholic your entire life, or whatever religion you're using for your exemption. Sorry, I'm just using an example. Maybe not a great one, but
Nobody's lost their jobs because of 1001.
And nobody's lost their jobs because of 1001. That's not true. I know people that did. I know several people that did. I've given him several examples. He doesn't want to accept them. He apparently thinks I'm making those people up. If you don't believe me, I would encourage you to look at the website for Hoosiers for Medical Liberty. I will link them in the description of this video. They are at the forefront. Their founder is great. She's at the forefront of really looking into this legislation to protect medical liberty, well, medical and religious liberty in this example. And I've talked with them. They've heard from plenty of people who've been discriminated against or lost their jobs. And they do a lot of work with legislators trying to fix these things. So I highly recommend checking them out. They're pretty great.
Not because of 1001.
Because their form was rejected because they weren't protected. Really.
And he's saying, well, they didn't lose their jobs because of 1001. I'm saying, yes, because their form was rejected, because the bill didn't offer actual protections. The bill didn't say that they had to accept it, so it was rejected. They lost their job.
Their rights weren't protected. They lost their jobs. I don't know how that's not clear.
I disagree with you on that.
He disagrees with facts. I disagree that those people lost their jobs. You don't know who those people are. You haven't met those people. You have a constituent coming to you with a legitimate concern. They have a question about legislation. My question was, is there any legislation that would revise that or perhaps fix some of the shortcomings of that bill? His answer is, nobody lost their job. That wasn't my question, JD. That is not my question. Why are you dodging the question? Because you're getting defensive, because you know you failed. Because you failed.
But you're wrong.
I think you're wrong, so disagree. So
I have evidence that you're wrong. And you're lying to me right now.
No,
I mean, I know people who are trying to support their families who lost their job. JD, I don't.
All right, next question.
So he goes, he just says, I disagree with you. I do know people who have lost their jobs, who are trying to support their family and went through some really hard times because HB 1001 did not protect them. And JD says, I disagree. And then says, next question. My question, again, was, is there any legislation to fix some of the shortcomings of House Bill 1001 and help protect religious liberty? And he didn't answer me. I ended up getting hold of Hoosiers for Medical Liberty, and there was a bill that Becky Cash had put in to fix a lot of that stuff, but she was basically ignored by people like J.D. Prescott, who didn't want to help protect people's medical and religious liberties. So that bill didn't go anywhere. It would have fixed a lot of shortcomings. I honestly didn't know about it until after this event. I called Hoosiers for Medical Liberty afterwards and told them about what had happened, and sent them the video. And they're disgusted. They said they know plenty of people that they'd like to be interviewing more of these people who've lost their jobs, and let me know about that bill. So, yeah, that was my question, and that is how I was treated by my representative for asking it. So, remember, J. Prescott says nobody lost their jobs because of House Bill 1001 or the protections in House Bill 1001 were not strong enough. Okay, well, you don't want to believe my you want to take my word for it and believe my specific lived examples. So let's do a quick Google search. Oh, here we go. I Google searched Indian nurses sued for being fired COVID vaccine. Let's look at our first one, Indy Star. St. Vincent workers who declined COVID-19 vaccine sue hospital for religious discrimination. Dozens of, let me maximize this so I can read this better and actually look at the screen. Dozens of St. Vincent and Ascension Health workers in Indiana who were suspended without pay for not receiving the COVID-19 vaccine are asking for the federal court to open a class action lawsuit. The 64 workers claim the hospital network discriminated against them because they objected to the vaccine on religious grounds. Ascension Health established a coercive process calculated to force healthcare workers and staff to abandon their religious objections to the COVID-19 vaccination and receive the vaccination against their will. The lawsuit claims. And in July 2021, Ascension Health announced a requirement that its associates had to get the COVID-19 vaccination by November. There are roughly 14,700 associates in Indiana. Ascension Health said in a July news release that tens of thousands of its workers had already been vaccinated. But we must do more to overcome this pandemic as we provide safe environments for those we serve, the release stated. So like other hospital networks in Indiana, St. Vincent Health allowed workers to get an exemption if the vaccine conflicted with religious beliefs or medical conditions. But the 64 workers who filed the lawsuit Friday in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Indiana say St. Vincent Health and its parent company failed to individually and properly assess each application for religious exemption. A St. Vincent Health spokesperson declined to speak about the allegations, saying they're not able to comment on pending litigation. IndyStar also requested comment from Ascension Health. So the lawsuit claims that Ascension Health's pressure tactics involve delaying final decisions on requests for religious exemptions and denying applications for exemption within timeframes that gave applicants little time after denial to consider options other than vaccination. So what they do is they say, oh yeah, we're assessing your religious exemption. If it's denied, you have to be vaccinated by such and such date. They wait till the last possible minute, say you're denied, and then they would then be forced to take the vaccination or lose their job. That's basically what they're saying. Sometimes there's other options. You could go talk to a doctor and see if you can get a medical exemption, et cetera, et cetera. But they are claiming that they weren't allowed that opportunity. So as a result, the plaintiffs were suspended without pay from November 12th until December 17th. They were originally told they'd be fired January 4th if they didn't get the vaccine, the lawsuit claims. But around December 17th, the hospital network began telling people who claimed religious exemptions that they could return to work. The workers are asking the federal court to find the hospital network violated federal discrimination law and to order the hospital network to pay them for the time they spent out of work. They're also requesting financial compensation for alleged harms. While the lawsuit lists 64 plaintiffs, lawyers estimate that hundreds more may have been affected. So, JD just told us there, no one lost their jobs or nobody lost their jobs based on the weaknesses of House Bill 1001. Well, there's a lot of people that lost a lot of pay because of it. Let's look at the next article from the Indiana Lawyer. A year later, the fight continues over vaccine mandates. Let me blow this up a little bit. Oh, that blows that up a lot. A year after many of Indiana's large corporations and health systems began firing employees who didn't get COVID-19 vaccines, the lawsuits are beginning to pile up. In recent months, current and former employees of drug maker Eli Lilly & Co., medical equipment maker Roche Diagnostics, and healthcare system Ascension St. Vincent, we already heard about that one, have filed suit in federal district court claiming their religious views and civil liberties were violated. Those employers say they are not dropping their vaccination. Those employers say they're not dropping their vaccine mandates for all employees, with some narrow exemptions, though none is requiring booster shots. I can read. I can do this. They talk about a lot of people died from COVID. In March, Governor Eric Holcomb signed legislation that would require employers to accept religious exemptions to COVID vaccine mandate based on federal civil rights law. However, under that law, employers can reject religious exemptions if they can show it would cause an undue hardship that can't be reasonably accommodated. The legislation also required employers to accept requests for medical exemptions if they are accompanied by a signed note from a doctor, physician assistant, or advanced practitioners, which is another issue there. Medical exemptions were pretty difficult to get. I know someone who tried to get a medical exemption. To get one, you need a doctor's note, and there were very few doctors who are willing to take the liability of signing a note saying that someone couldn't take a COVID vaccine. I know that happened to at least 2 different people. So this video is great. This is going to be the one that gets us completely demonetized and kicked off YouTube. But sorry, Chris and Josh. So that's just a couple of quick examples of where JD was blatantly lying. He said that I lied, that no one lost their jobs because of the weak protections of House Bill 1001. There were the top 2 articles right there that mentioned several employers that were not accepting or honoring people's religious exemptions, that they were accepting religious exemptions and then just denying them and letting people go, or doing other things to basically force people to take a vaccine against a religious belief. So I can't stand the lying. So I was thinking of an analogy yesterday that I wanted to share. So liars in politics really frustrate me. Liars in general really frustrate me. But what frustrates me even more are people that claim to be maybe super religious, and they are morally superior, and continue to do unethical things like lying, like JD Prescott clearly just lied to me and lied to everyone. And the analogy is this. There are several kinds of wellness in your life. I think people know, like, physical wellness, right? So you want to be physically well, what do? You go to the gym, you eat healthy, you do all those things you're supposed to do. There's financial wellness. You want to make sure you're making good investments, that you're not wasting money, that you're spending wisely, all these things. But my example is really with the physical wellness. So if you want to be physically well, there's ways to do it. Now, let's say the way you're choosing to be physically well and healthy is you're going to the gym once a week. You go to the gym once a week for an hour, okay? You go to the gym and you put up a real good show. You do some cardio, you get a little bit of leg work in, you do some bench pressing. You're doing all the things you should be doing in the gym. People are seeing you there and they're saying, man, look at Brandon Rudd. That's a healthy dude. We see him here every Saturday at the gym, and it looks like he's getting a good workout, and that's awesome. He's going to be really healthy. He's got to be a really health conscious person. Well, let's say I then leave the gym. Okay, it's Saturday, I got my hour in, feeling great. Go home, lay down on the couch, grab my bag of Doritos, call Pizza Hut, order my pizza, spend the rest of the day sitting on my butt, eating pizza, eating Doritos, drinking sugary drinks, being unhealthy as all get out. And that continues. That goes through Sunday. That goes through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Every day of the week, I'm being completely unhealthy. I am not a physically fit person at that point. I'm not taking my physical wellness seriously. But then I go back to the gym on Saturday. They go, there's Brandon Rudd. He's really serious about his physical wellness. He's going to do his leg day. He's going to do his cardio. He's going to show us how fit he is and what a good job he's doing. Mind you, I'm not physically that well, but the point is that only holds up for so long. They see me doing that, and then I come back the next week and the next week and the next, and they keep seeing me on there on Saturdays. They go, Brandon keeps putting up a good show, but it seems like he spent a lot less time on the cardio machine. He's getting winded a lot easier. He's not benching the same amount of weight he used to. He's not. My dog's joined me. It looks like he's gaining weight. He's not where he's supposed to be. So I continue to get unhealthy. That's not physical wellness. And there's another kind of wellness. There's spiritual wellness. And how do you engage in spiritual wellness? Do you do that by going to church once a week and seeing your community and saying, look, I'm a good Christian. I'm a good, whatever your religious belief is. I show up every Sunday. I'm there for an hour. I'm singing in the front row the loudest. I'm praying so hard. Everyone knows that I'm a good member of the community because I'm always at church. But what happens when you leave church? Are you continuing to live by that? Are you praying in your everyday life? Are you listening to that scripture? Are you making sure that you follow everything that's been said in church, that you are being an honest person, that you're being a good person, that you're helping those that you need to help, that you're standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, that you're doing all those things that your church teaches you to do that would make you a good Christian. If not, you don't have good spiritual wellness. And that may hold up for a little while. They'll see you at church and they'll go, look at that Brandon. He goes to church every Sunday. He must be a really good Christian. He's really representing everything that he should be representing, and you can really count on him. And then they see me after church, and I say, meh, whatever. I see that homeless man, and I just step over him. I don't care about him. They see me, they hear me lying to my neighbor about something because I don't want to talk to him. I just completely make something up. They see me shoplifting something when I go to the store. I kind of sneak something in my pocket. The point being, if you want to live a certain life, live the life you want to live. But you're not gonna fool anybody long if you're not actually living that life. You can't just put in an hour a week and make people think you're fit. You can't just put an hour in a week and make people think that you're a great religious spiritual person, because you have a weak spiritual weakness if you're going to lie to people. And that's what I can't stand about liars. I grew up in the Catholic Church. We got a lot of commandments. We got 10 of them, if I'm correct. And one of those is about not lying. Thou shalt not lie. And that one was always important to me when I was a kid. I remember I went to Catholic school, and as a young kid, we had to memorize the 10 commandments. And when we did, we got a pack of Lifesavers. So I was on it. I learned the 10 commandments real quick. But of those commandments, as a kid, there's a lot that don't really apply to you as a kid. I'm not worried about coveting my neighbor's wife when I'm 7 years old. I'm not worried about bearing false idols or whatever. But bearing false witness or lying was always a big one to me, because that's something you can do. The kids will do, and something that you should learn at a young age. I mean, that you need to be an honest person. I guess steal was another one. Thou shalt not steal. I was a little bit concerned about, because I never really did it. But, a little kid, you have that opportunity to see that candy bar on the checkout. Man, that'd be great. My mom said no, but I could really go for candy bar. But not lying has always been something that I've lived by. And to be honest, I'm not great at it. So I was never really big on it. But I can't stand it from politicians, and I can't stand it when people give them a pass. It drives me crazy. So my dog is going insane. So that's the whole point of this rant. You'll see a lot of lying from politicians. I mean, that was one example of J.D. Prescott lying. There's a lot of him sending out. He lied against his primary opponent last election and sent out mailers with things were blatantly untrue, where he was bold enough to include links to where they allegedly said something where if you follow the link, it says the exact opposite of what he said it did. He sends out mailers taking credit for other representatives' work. Another great example is, let me find this one. Another great example. Gosh bless it. I need to find this now. Let's see if I can find it. Now I'm going to frustrate myself because I should have had this one ready. But I will definitely... I'm finding it now. We're dedicated people. So I'll try to talk and search at the same time and see how well I do. So, oh boy, this is going to be tough, but I'll do it. So another thing from last election, the last primary election that really drove me kind of crazy was J.D. Prescott did a lot of mailers saying and posts on Facebook, which I am blocked from, so I couldn't really see them unless people share them with me, claiming to be the only candidate in the race who was 100% pro-life. He was the 100% pro-life candidate. Where did I put? Darn it, I had a physical copy. Now I can't find it. Well, somebody... Oh, I know exactly how to find it. Apologies, all apologies. Okay, found it. Okay. On it. So he sent out plenty of mailers claiming that he was 100% pro-life. And regardless of your view on pro-choice, pro-life, being honest about it's the important thing. I don't have to agree with everybody, but I would at least like to know that I can trust people and what they say. So J.D. Prescott, however, is the same candidate that lied on his Hoosiers for Life survey in order to get an endorsement. He promised them that he would support legislation that would be pro-life and would end abortion in Indiana. And he has now voted against multiple amendments that would have ended abortion in Indiana, including Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 204 and Amendment 76 to Senate Bill 1, 2022. Hoosiers for Life, Amy Schlichter's executive director for Hoosiers for Life, made this statement regarding J.D. Prescott and his dishonesty. The establishment and others like Representative J.D. Prescott have lied to us and to babies. 8,000 preborn babies have been terminated every year in Indiana because people like Prescott want to regulate abortion and won't claim state sovereignty for our posterity, but will turn around and claim it, allowing employers to mandate vaccines to employees. The establishment, including Prescott, have voted against the premature having life-saving care, against pulling the license from Planned Parenthood and life at conception. The Liberty Movement and Liberty Defense agrees. We have given Prescott and others a failed status, and we're encouraging voters to not vote for him and those alike due to their large government stance, failure to protect parental rights, and their non-support of home rule property rights. This was written about the person who claims to be pro-life Prescott, 100% pro-life. It's blatant lies, and it's gross. So that's about all I have. I could go off on this rant forever, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I'm going to say thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a great day. Thank you for watching this episode of Rudd's Room. If you haven't done so yet, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified of new episodes. If you'd like to see additional content featuring Brandon Rudd, please tune in every Thursday for the live show, The Bastards of Politics, which features Kristopher H. Bilbrey, Joshua Civic Duty Kimbrell, and myself. You can also check out the audio-only version of the episodes at thebastards.fireside.fm and anywhere podcasts can be found. Thanks again, and have a great day.